My wife and her sister forged my signature to steal $200, $0 of our family inheritance, then lied about it. Now they're suing me for emotional distress over trying to get it back, and I feel like I've been betrayed beyond words. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. The most shocking part: it all started with a simple suspicion that turned into a full-blown nightmare. I'll tell you straight. My wife Lisa had always been a little bitchy, but she was also charming enough to get away with it. She was the kind of woman who could lie through her teeth and make you doubt your own judgment. For months, I noticed small things: her phone going off at odd hours, her being unusually distant when I came home from work, and her suddenly insisting she was too busy to spend time with me. The signs were there, but I didn't want to believe it. Then one day, I stumbled across something that changed everything. I was going through our joint bank account to check on some bills, and I saw a transfer of $200, $0. At first I thought maybe I was mistaken, maybe it was some kind of mistake or a bank error. But then I looked closer. The money was moved from our account to someone named, and the signature on the transfer, it wasn't mine. I double-checked the account details, and the signature was forged. Someone had forged my signature to steal a huge chunk of our inheritance, money that was supposed to be for my kids' college, our retirement, our future. I felt my stomach drop. I couldn't believe it. My wife Lisa had been acting so strange lately, and now it made sense. She'd been pushing for us to take a family vacation, but I'd always had a gut feeling she was hiding something. I started piecing things together. I remembered her secretive phone calls, her lying about where she was going, and her insistence that she was working late, even when I knew she was. But what really broke me was finding out she'd been lying about the money all along. She and her sister had forged my signature and stolen the inheritance. And then they turned around and lied to my face, claiming I was overreacting, saying I was paranoid, accusing me of emotional distress because I wanted to get it back. I was furious, not just at the theft, but at the betrayal. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I was building a life with, had been cheating on me with her sister. I found out she was sleeping with her sister's boyfriend, Jason, for months. She'd been lying about everything: her whereabouts, her feelings, even her own identity. The worst part: she had the nerve to deny everything when I confronted her. She called me paranoid, said I was crazy for suspecting her. She told me I was overreacting, that she loved me, that I was imagining things. But I had proof. I had receipts, messages, and her own lies on record. I knew the truth. That's when I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore. I gathered every piece of evidence I could find: bank statements, texts, pictures, and I confronted her with it all. The confrontation was a nightmare. She yelled, called me a jealous psycho, accused me of ruining her life. She told me she didn't cheat on me, that she only lied about the money because she was trying to protect us, and that I was just too stupid to understand her sacrifices. She even had the audacity to say that I was emotionally abusive for trying to get our money back. But I wasn't going to let her gaslight me. I told her I knew everything about the affair, about the stolen money, about her lies. The emotional impact hit me like a freight train. I felt betrayed beyond words. I'd trusted her with my life, my money, my future, and she'd been playing me for a fool. I was angry, hurt, and deeply sad all at once. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I married, had been lying to my face for months. I felt like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. The worst part: seeing her smug face, knowing she thought she'd gotten away with everything. I wondered how I could have been so blind, so naive. I started questioning everything: my judgment, my choices, my ability to trust anyone again. It was a dark time, and I didn't know how to pull myself out of the hole I was in. In that moment, I knew I had to make a decision. I could either forgive her, try to work through this mess, or cut ties and start over. But the betrayal went too deep. The money, the affair, the lies, it all piled up into one overwhelming realization: I had been played. I couldn't stay with someone who lied to me, cheated on me, and stole from me. I decided I'd fight back, not just for the money, but for my dignity. I wasn't going to let her or her sister walk all over me. I wanted justice, I wanted the truth, and I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. That's where I am now, planning my next move, trying to pick up the pieces of a shattered life. After I confronted Lisa with everything I had found, texts, bank statements, forged signatures, her reaction was as cold and calculated as I expected. She looked me dead in the eyes, her makeup slightly smudged from her earlier tears, and she started spinning her web of lies. She told me she wasn't cheating, that her affair with Jason was just sex to feel alive, and insisted she only lied about the money because she was trying to protect us. Said she thought if she kept it quiet we could still save our marriage. I couldn't believe her audacity. How could she sit there and lie so convincingly like she was the victim? It was infuriating. She kept crying, but it wasn't the kind of genuine tears I'd seen before. It was more like a performance, a way to manipulate me into feeling guilty or sorry for her. She claimed she was stressed, overwhelmed, and that she never meant to hurt me. That's when I snapped. I told her I knew she'd been lying, that I had proof of the affair, and that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I told her I was done trusting her, that I wanted a divorce, and that I was going to take her to court for the stolen money. Her face twisted with anger and she spat back. "You're just jealous because Jason doesn't want you. You're emotionally unstable. You're the reason our marriage failed." That's when I realized she was beyond saving. She was manipulative and selfish, and I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I started packing my things that night, feeling a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and a strange sense of liberation. I couldn't believe I had let her get away with so much, her lying, her cheating, her stealing, and I felt like I was just a fool for not seeing it sooner. But now I saw her for what she really was, a bitch who'd lied her way into my life and then tried to destroy me from the inside out. The emotional toll was heavy. I spent nights lying awake, replaying every moment, every sign I'd missed. I wondered how I could have been so blind, so trusting. I kept asking myself if I was just naive or if I was a terrible husband for not noticing sooner. The sting of betrayal was so sharp I could hardly breathe. Still, I knew I had to face the facts. She was gone, and I needed to figure out how to move forward. I felt a deep sense of loss, but also a flicker of determination. I wasn't going to let her ruin me completely. I had to rebuild, not just my finances, but my sense of trust and self-worth. I hired a lawyer, and we started the process of recovering the stolen inheritance. It was complicated. She and her sister were trying to block everything, claiming I was emotionally abusing Lisa to get the money back. Honestly, I was furious that she would turn around and sue me for emotional distress when she was the one who betrayed me so thoroughly. The whole situation was surreal. Here I was, fighting for what's right while she played the victim card. I couldn't understand how someone could be so manipulative. It was like she was trying to rewrite history to make me look like the bad guy. Meanwhile, I kept discovering more. I found out she'd been sleeping with Jason for months, even after she told me she'd ended things. I saw messages where she was bragging about how hot Jason made her feel, how she loved the thrill of sneaking around. She'd been lying about her career, pretending to work late, but instead she was meeting Jason at hotels, sending him dirty texts, and lying about her whereabouts to me. The betrayal cut deep, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized she'd never truly loved me. She'd only loved the idea of a life she could manipulate. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I told her I was done, that I wanted a divorce and I was going to fight for the money she stole. I wanted her to pay for her lies, her cheating, her theft. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I knew it wouldn't be easy. She was cunning, and her sister was just as bad. But I was determined. I started documenting everything even more carefully, planning my next moves and preparing for the legal battle ahead. I felt a mix of anger and resolve, knowing that she thought she could just walk away from all this, but I was going to make sure she paid for her betrayal. The next few months would be the hardest of my life, but I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. The legal battle turned out to be a nightmare. Lisa and her sister threw everything they had at me, lawsuits claiming I was stalking her, accusations of emotional abuse, even trying to pin the theft on me by claiming I'd coerced her into signing documents. It was relentless. I had to hire a team of lawyers just to keep up, and every court hearing was a new battle. Meanwhile, I was trying to rebuild my life, but the constant stress of the case weighed heavily on me. I felt like I was fighting a war on every front, and the betrayal kept echoing in my mind. Lisa's attitude was the worst. She acted like she was the victim in all this, calling me crazy, saying I was obsessed with her and Jason. She told her friends I was trying to destroy her, all while she was out sleeping with her sister's boyfriend behind my back. Whenever I tried to confront her about her lies or the affair, she'd throw her bitchy attitude in my face, saying I was possessive and jealous, even though I had proof of everything. It was like talking to a wall. She just refused to accept responsibility. Instead, she painted herself as the innocent victim, the one who was doing everything for the family, even as she was stealing from us and cheating behind my back. Honestly, the emotional toll was brutal. I started having nightmares, waking up in cold sweats, feeling like I was losing my mind. I'd sit alone at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I could have been so blind. How did I miss all the signs? I kept asking myself if I was just a fool for trusting her, for believing she loved me. It hurt so much to realize the woman I married was a manipulative, lying bitch who only cared about herself. I felt anger, sadness, and a deep sense of betrayal that I couldn't shake. I'd always been an honest guy, working long hours, trying to give my family the best, and then to find out she'd been secretly screwing around and stealing from us. It was devastating. I also discovered that her lies extended far beyond just the affair and the theft. She'd been secretly taking money from our joint account, claiming she needed it for emergencies, but instead she was funneling it to Jason and her sister. I found receipts for hotel stays, fancy dinners, and gifts she bought for Jason, all paid for with our money. She'd been lying about her expenses, hiding her secret life in plain sight. The worst part, she kept insisting that she was doing everything for the family, that she was saving us from ruin. I couldn't believe how twisted her version of reality was. To her, lying, cheating, and stealing was just doing what she had to do to keep her perfect image. Despite all this, I kept fighting. I refused to let her get away with it. I pushed harder in court, demanding full restitution of the stolen inheritance, and I worked tirelessly on evidence to back up my claims. I even hired a private investigator to follow her, just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. The investigator caught her meeting Jason at a hotel again, this time with waiting in the car. I finally had concrete proof of her ongoing affair, which I turned over to my lawyer. It felt like a small victory, but I knew she'd never admit to anything willingly. She'd lie her way out of it like she always did. Meanwhile, Lisa's legal team was trying to smear me, claiming I was harassing her and trying to ruin her reputation. I couldn't believe how low she'd sink, using her own family and legal system to turn the tables and paint me as the villain. But I had enough evidence to counter every lie. I knew that, in the end, truth was on my side. It just took patience and persistence. Every day I woke up feeling more determined to get justice, not just for the money she stole, but for the years of lies and betrayal I'd endured. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions, to understand that you can't cheat, steal, and lie your way through life without paying the price. I also started to realize that I wasn't just fighting for money or reputation. I was fighting to reclaim my sanity, my dignity, and my peace of mind. I had to learn how to let go of the anger, the heartbreak, and the betrayal, even if it seemed impossible at the time. I knew I had to move forward, and I had to do it on my own terms. The trust I once had was shattered, but I was determined to rebuild my life from the ground up. I couldn't change what she'd done, but I could control how I responded. I was slowly learning that sometimes the only way to get through betrayal is to fight for what's right, even if it means going through hell first. The legal process dragged on longer than I expected, and each new court appearance felt like a fresh punch in the gut. Lisa and her sister kept up the act, playing innocent, crying fake tears, and accusing me of everything under the sun. They claimed I was obsessed, stalking her, trying to ruin their lives, but I had enough evidence to shut them down. Still, it was exhausting. Every time I thought I'd gotten some ground, they'd come back with new lies, new accusations, trying to turn the tables. It felt like I was fighting a never-ending battle, and honestly I was starting to wonder if I'd ever get justice. The most infuriating part was how Lisa acted during this whole ordeal. She'd always be bitchy and dismissive, throwing tantrums when I pressed her for answers. She'd scream, "You're just jealous Jason doesn't want you," or "You're mentally unstable, that's why you're making all this up." She'd lie right to my face, insisting she'd never cheated, never stolen a cent, even as I had proof in hand. She was a master at gaslighting, making me doubt my own memory, my own sanity. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night questioning whether I'd lost my mind because she'd spin stories so convincingly. Meanwhile, I kept uncovering more. Turns out she'd been funneling money to Jason for months, buying him expensive gifts, paying for trips, even sending him cash under the table. The texts I found were enough to make your skin crawl, how she described their hot sex, how she loved the thrill of sneaking around. She told me she was working late, but she was really meeting Jason at hotels, sometimes even at her sister's place. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. All those nights I was sitting alone, stressing over bills, she was out screwing Jason or lying about her business trips. It was like her entire life was a lie. The betrayal cut so deep I felt like I was bleeding internally. I'd always been a straightforward, honest guy, working hard to provide for my family. And now I was stuck fighting for my money, my reputation, and my sanity. I'd always trusted Lisa, believed she loved me, but I was starting to see that she only cared about herself. The money she stole was a slap in the face, but the affair, that was the dagger. She'd been sleeping with her sister's boyfriend all along, and I had proof. I even found messages where she bragged about how hot Jason made her feel, how she loved the secret thrill of it all. It made me sick. Despite everything, I refused to give up. I poured every ounce of strength into fighting for what was rightfully mine. I worked with my lawyer to gather more evidence, push for full restitution, and expose her lies. I even hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her. It paid off when I caught her sneaking out to meet Jason again, this time at a different hotel. I couldn't believe she was so blatant about it. I finally had the proof I needed to show the court that she was still actively cheating on me, still lying, still stealing. And then came the worst part, her legal team's counterattack. They accused me of harassment, of trying to ruin her reputation, and even claimed I'd been abusive. It was sickening. They twisted everything, trying to make me look like the villain. But I knew the truth. I knew I had the evidence, and I knew I had the moral high ground. I realized that no matter how much they tried to smear me, I had the facts on my side. I was fighting not just for the money, but for my dignity, my integrity, and my sanity. Looking back, I see how much I've grown through this chaos. I learned that betrayal cuts deep, but it also reveals who people really are. Lisa's true colors came out: selfish, manipulative, and completely devoid of remorse. I also learned that sometimes you have to fight dirty, play hardball, and never back down. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will. I've come to accept that she's not the woman I thought I knew, and maybe she never was. The pain still lingers, but I'm starting to see a way out, a way to rebuild. And I know now that I won't let anyone, least of all a bitch like Lisa, destroy me without a fight. As the months went by, the legal battles became even more intense. Every court date was a new battlefield, Lisa, and pulling out all the stops to try and discredit me. They hired their own lawyers, hired private investigators to dig up dirt on me, and even tried to turn friends and family against me. It was relentless. I'd sit across from my lawyer, feeling exhausted, knowing that the only thing keeping me sane was the fact that I had the truth on my side. Still, the emotional toll was brutal. I'd go home after those hearings feeling drained, questioning whether I'd ever get out of this nightmare. Lisa's attitude never changed. She remained bitchy, dismissive, and manipulative. One day, she even had the nerve to sit me down and say, "You're just jealous Jason doesn't want you. You're crazy for thinking I'd cheat on you." She looked me in the eyes and lied with a straight face, as if she genuinely believed her own BS. It made me furious. I wanted to scream, to shake her and tell her how much she'd betrayed me, but I held my tongue. Instead, I focused on gathering more evidence, staying one step ahead. Meanwhile, I uncovered even more about her lies. She'd been secretly taking money from our joint account, under the guise of emergencies, but instead, she was funneling it to Jason, paying for trips, gifts, and secret rendezvous. I found receipts for jewelry, hotel rooms, and even a few expensive dinners that she claimed she paid with her own money, but I knew better. I'd seen her bank statements. She was lying through her teeth. Every new discovery made me angrier, but it also strengthened my resolve. I was determined to expose her, to make her pay for what she'd done. One of the biggest breakthroughs came when I finally got the court's approval to access her phone records and bank accounts directly. I wanted everything in black and white, undeniable proof. The evidence was staggering. Texts where she described their hot sex, messages about her secret love for Jason, and bank transfers to Jason's account. She'd been lying to me for months, pretending she was just working late or going out with friends. The betrayal was so profound that I started to wonder if I'd ever trust anyone again. How could I have been so blind? How did I miss all the signs? The emotional was relentless. I oscillated between rage, sadness, and a kind of numbness. I'd wake up in the middle of the night replaying everything, the stolen money, the affair, the lies, and feeling completely lost. I'd ask myself if I should just walk away, forget the money, and try to start fresh. But deep down, I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. Not after everything. I had to fight, not just for the inheritance, but for my dignity, for my self-respect. And so I kept pushing forward. I filed for divorce, demanding full custody of my kids and the return of the stolen inheritance. I knew Lisa would do everything she could to try and manipulate the situation, but I was prepared. I had witnesses, evidence, and a lawyer who believed in me. I also started making plans to rebuild my life, to get my finances in order, and to find some peace after all this chaos. It was hard, really hard, but I was determined to come out of this stronger. Looking back, I realized that this whole ordeal has changed me profoundly. I learned that betrayal often comes from those closest to us, and that trust is a fragile thing. I've learned to be more cautious, more guarded, but also more aware of the red flags I'd ignored. Most importantly, I've learned that sometimes you have to fight for yourself because no one else will. Lisa may have tried to destroy me, but I refuse to let her win. I'll fight until I get justice, and I'll rebuild what she tried to take away. Because in the end, the only person who can truly save me, who can truly save yourself, is yourself. The final stretch felt like I was climbing out of a pit I didn't even realize I'd fallen into. The court cases finally reached a point where the truth couldn't be any more. Lisa and her sister's elaborate lies crumbled under the weight of the evidence I presented: texts, bank records, witness testimonies. The judge saw through their manipulations and ordered Lisa to pay back every penny of the stolen inheritance, plus damages for the emotional distress she'd caused. It was a small victory, but after everything, it felt like I'd finally reclaimed some sense of justice. The divorce was finalized shortly after. The judge granted me full custody of my kids, and I made damn sure that Lisa wouldn't get to manipulate her way into their lives again. I kept the house, kept my dignity, and started the slow process of healing. It wasn't easy. Those wounds cut deep, and the betrayal haunted me for months. I had to learn how to trust again, how to sleep without nightmares, and how to rebuild my confidence. But I kept telling myself that I was better off without her, that I deserved more than the lies and betrayal she'd thrown my way. Looking back, I realize I've grown a lot from this ordeal. I've become more cautious, more aware of the people I let into my life. Trust is hard-earned now, and I don't take it lightly. I learned that sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who hurt us the most, but that doesn't mean we should give up on love or hope. It just means we have to be smarter about who we let in. I also learned that revenge isn't just about getting even. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your identity. Most importantly, I've come to accept that betrayal is a part of life, but it doesn't have to define me. I've learned to forgive myself for the times I ignored the warning signs and to forgive her for her lies. Not because she deserved it, but because holding on to anger and bitterness was only hurting me. I've started focusing on myself, my kids, and building a future that's free from her shadow. Every day is a new beginning, and I refuse to let her steal any more of my happiness. So, if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's that no matter how deep the betrayal runs, you have the power to fight back, to stand up for yourself, to seek justice, and to rebuild. Trust is fragile, but it's also resilient. And in the end, the only person responsible for your happiness is you. I've learned that the hard way, but I'm finally starting to believe it. I may have been betrayed beyond words, but I'm still here, still fighting and still hopeful. That's what matters.